Lee Young-jun is not just a man, he is the amazing vice chairman of the Yoonjung Group of companies, and since his inauguration as the vice chairman, he has been so competent that he is one of the most competent CEOs in the world. However, he doesn't relate with anyone, he doesn't make friends, he doesn't have partners, he doesn't even allow ladies to touch the hem of his garment or his clothes. The only person he has allowed to be close to him in over 9 years is his secretary, Kim Mi-so, while Mi-so is everything Young-jun could want in a secretary. He sucks life out of her, she can't do anything without him, and he even calls her at weird periods for her to get things done for him. Every worker in the company dislikes Young-jun, he doesn't give second chances and he barely allows them to make mistakes. He is perfect about his looks and his surroundings, and this makes him so awesome. He goes for dinner one evening with Mi-so as usual, and after the dinner, he compliments her about how much she has grown while working for him and how good a partner she is to Hai. She appreciates his compliment and he asks her to request for anything. She tells him she needs a favor and he reminds her she can't tell him she likes him. She reveals to him that she wants to resign. As someone who finds it difficult to beg or apologize, he assumes she is teasing so he doesn't take her seriously, and he says she can do as she wishes. He finds it difficult to sleep that night, and the following day, he asks her again if she means it and she says yes. She tells him she will put an offer out for a new secretary and get the best offer for him. She leaves office and goes to find a new job while he visits his friend and asks him what he could have done wrong to Mi-so to make her want to resign. His friend asks him to make a compromise with Mi-so and get her. At the job interview, Mi-so mistakenly writes her name as secretary of Lee. While that has been her identity as a person for the past 9 years, she changes the name and receives a call from Young-jun who asks her to come to the office. He tells her he has to go home, and by the door, he tries to make a compromise with her, telling her he will promote her to the position of a director, give her an assistant, a car, and even an apartment if she stays, but she refuses. At home, his father, Chairman Lee, begs him to bring a wife so he can have a grandchild, and also asks him what he intends to do if Mi-so leaves, but he insists he won't let Mi-so go. His mother, Madam Choi, also meets Mi-so and asks if her son is gay, but Mi-so tells her no. Choi comments that she will like it if her son eventually finds someone to be by his side, and it should be someone like Mi-so. Mi-so immediately staggers to the back and tells her that nothing of such can happen. After the meeting, Young-jun asks her if she feels overwhelmed because of the meeting and if she would like to do that again, but she reminds him that she is resigning and she can't continue working with him. She leaves and goes to meet her siblings, Kim Pil-nam and Kim Mal-hee. She tells them about how work is and they ask about her allergy, asking if she has triggered it recently. On the other hand, Young-jun meets his friend, Park Yoo-sik. He asks Yoo-sik what he thinks could be Mi-so's worry, and Yoo-sik wonders if Mi-so could have fallen in love with him, and she is angry because she couldn't get him. He insists that their relationship was purely business and he is sure about that, but Yoo-sik asks him to think about what happened that night. He recalls that he had met a lady that claimed to be in love with him at the dinner, and the lady said it was her birthday. He told Mi-so to help him get a flower and she ran to get it. He admitted that he saw that her face was tearly when she returned, and it may be because she felt bad that he was sending her that kind of message when she is also in love with him. To make things right, he decides to get her flowers. At the restaurant, Mi-so tells her siblings that she still has an allergy to flowers. She tells them she has resigned and she is leaving. They ask her why, and she insists it is because she has finished paying their family's debts and she can now work with peace. She suddenly gets a call from Young-jun who asks her to come to pick him up. She refuses, but he insists, so she goes. Upon arriving, he gives her flowers and she gets teary again. He reminds her that their relationship is strictly business and things like that weren't meant to affect her, but she tells him she doesn't care. She insists she is resigning, telling him that she wants to have a life of her own. He begs her to at least come to work the next day. Over the night, he wonders if he was holding her life and why she doesn't have the life of her own. On the other hand, she wakes up happy and prepares for work while he can't even dress himself well when he goes to work. Upon arriving, she sees that he looks stressed, but she doesn't care and she goes for the interview. He asks the new candidate what she would be when she starts working, if she will only be his secretary or have her life, and she says she will do the two. He hires her immediately and Mi-so starts preparing to give her the information she needs to work with him. He goes to the club that night, thinking about what is wrong with her. She, on the other hand, goes to hang out with her friends, telling them that they can now invite her out as she is now free. She watches as her friends talk about their family, but she is 29 with no boyfriend or child. She goes home and sees children with their mothers and gets jealous. She gets home and suddenly receives a knock on her door, and the visitor, Young-jun, asks to speak with her and asks her what she means by her life. She reveals to him that everything she has been doing since the beginning of the work has been about him, and now she wishes to get married. He asks if that is all she wants and tells her he will marry her if it means she will remain with him. He goes to Yoo-sik to tell him what he has done and tells Yoo-sik that Mi-so only replied to him that it seems like he has been drinking. Yoo-sik laughs at him and tells him that he has been rejected, but he insists that Mi-so only wants him to come to her formally. Yoo-sik asks him if he likes Mi-so as a woman, but he insists that he needs her in his business and he will do anything to get his business working. That night, Mi-so receives a visit from Mizo, who assumes Young-jun was with her, but she tells her no and advises her that Young-jun isn't in love with anyone and he isn't even a considerate man for a lady to be with. The following day, the new secretary, Ms. Kim Jae, also resumes and Miso teaches her the work she has to do while Young Jun looks at her jealousy from his office. She looks around and remembers how difficult it was for her to work with him when they first started on their trip to United States and how she cried severally. She smiles at herself as he comes to meet her asking if she is slacking at work. She goes to report to him that his evening was free and she wants to leave work early. He tries to give her more jobs but she had done them before and she leaves. He visits Yusik asking for suggestions to get Miso to stay and he advises him that he can't keep going straight forward and he has to move steady into probably dating her before professing love to her. She takes her team to a team dinner that evening but Young Jun overhears their discussion. He suddenly comes to their team dinner and spoils the entire mood. No one is interested in playing games again so they decide to play complimentary games and he is shocked that Miso decides to compliment herself instead of him. Kim Jae, the new secretary, suggests they go for karaoke and he follows them. After the night ends, Miso asks him why he is doing all of that and he asks if she enjoyed the night, telling her that is how much she will enjoy dating him. She insists that she isn't interested and he isn't her type of man. He sends her a message asking what is wrong with her and why she doesn't want him. She replies telling him he is inconsiderate and selfish. He tells her the only people who shouldn't call him inconsiderate are her and his brother. At that moment, Miso's sister asks her to send her love emojis and she mistakenly sends it to Young Jun, which makes him wonder why she would send such a serious moment like that. Upon arriving at work, she offers to help him with his tie as she does but he says no. He tells her he has realized he is selfish and he can't always get what he wants so he will allow her to go but she should train Jae for a month. Throughout the entire day, he doesn't speak with her and keeps talking with Jae. She tries to apologize but he says she shouldn't talk about personal things at work. He calls Jae telling her to just pretend as if she is learning for a month. That night, Miso goes for dinner with her friends and one of them offers to set her up for a blind date. They receive a survey from the restaurant asking them to fill in where they would visit if they have a boyfriend. Unknown to her that Young Jun had paid the restaurant for the survey. He reads her information and tells Yusik to call her to come to an amusement park. He lightens up the place and comes to meet her asking if didn't delay her. She reminds him she is there to see Yusik and he revealed he had sent Yusik to call her there. He takes her on the swing, makes her play around. She really enjoys the night and reveals to him that she had wanted to visit an amusement park but she couldn't because it was expensive and her parents can't afford to take 3 children there and even if they buy a ticket. She is the youngest child. They go to have steak and he cuts it for her. He sees she is looking at the park and asks her why so she reveals her house was around that area when she was growing up before it was broken down to build the park. He tells her that around that time, he was in grade 4 and was in the same class with his brother because he was smart and that made him go through a lot. He takes her to watch the fireworks, wears his coat on her and drives her home. On the way, she tells him he had fulfilled almost all her wishes and wonders how he got it right, so she remembers the survey. He tells her he wanted to give her a last gift and wanted what she really loved. As the gift she wrote, he got her a stuffed cow and tells her he will give her the last gift before leaving. She recalls the last gift is a kiss so she quickly blocks him with the cow and leaves. She tells him beforehand that she isn't going to change her mind because of that and he says okay. Regardless, he believes she is already on a curse by him and will fall for him. That night, she dreams about a little boy she met as a child whose name was also Lee but she doesn't recall his last name. She finds a gift in the cow and also gets a call from her friend about her blind date that evening. She goes to work and Young Jun tells her the gift belongs to her. Jae and her colleague, Si-ra, finds out about the blind date and Jae informs Young Jun when she went to give him his coffee. He feels bad and runs to complain to Yusik who asks him what he meant by the blockbuster curse. Regardless, she goes for her blind date with Byung-han but keeps remembering her meal with Young Jun. They go out to take coffee and Yusik's secretary sees them and sends a picture to Yusik. Jealously, Young Jun comes there asking her why she would leave work for a private blind date and she promises him that until she resigns, she won't fix private dates again. He asks her not to and she wonders if he is talking about the date or the resignation. She gets home and meets her sister, Pil Nam, who is a psychiatrist. When she tells Pil Nam about how Young Jun is reacting, she tells her that it is the way possessive people do and if she doesn't leave the work now, she may not be able to leave again. She even says the jewelry Young Jun had given her is just like a choker. The following day, Miso finds out from Jae that a well-known writer, Morpheus, is returning to the country. Unknown to them that Morpheus is Young Jun's brother, Lee Sung-hyun, who returns to the country and calls his mother, Joy. The company is having a track race that day and Young Jun tells Miso and Jae that they win their games. Miso is paired with a guy, Ko, for her 3-legged race and he holds her tightly as they win and all the other staff screams that they should go on date. Young Jun gets jealous, announces to Yusik that they won't have track races again and walks away. He slips on the stairs and Miso comes to attend to him and take him home. She wants to put ice on his leg but he insists she should put it with the socks. She removes the socks and sees an injury on his leg so she puts it back and puts the ice. He asks how she felt about the race and she announces that she just had to do all she had to do so she wouldn't lose. He wonders if she will do anything not to lose and she reminds him that he was the one who insisted that she must win. He comes closer to her trying to ask if she will allow someone that close so she won't lose and he drags her which makes her fall on his body. She quickly gains herself and walks away. By the time she returns, he is fast asleep. He gets his usual nightmares and sleep paralysis, so he wakes up. He begs her to spend the night because he doesn't want to sleep alone, but she refuses his offer. He suddenly gets a call that changes his mood and asks her to leave. On her way, she bumps into Morpheus. Sung Hyun had helped her lace her shoe before visiting Young-jun. Young-jun asks why he had come, and he says he had returned to the country to launch his new book, and since their parents aren't around, he didn't want to stay at an empty house. That night, Miso keeps considering if Young-jun isn't possessive and if he really needed her. Upon arriving at work the next day, they find out a competing company had moved their art launch to the beginning of August, and Young-jun asks that they move theirs to July. They need to start planning again and get a new venue. He goes to check a library as a venue with Miso, and the light goes off. He gets scared, so she sits with him and reads a novel. He looks at her, asking if he had ever told her she was pretty. As they leave, she holds his hands to lead him out, and when they get out, they depart. She goes for a dinner with her siblings, and she tells them Young-jun may not be possessive, but they insist that she should resign before it is too late. She tries to excuse herself to the restroom, and she sees an insect which triggers her phobia again. At work, Jaya keeps talking about Morpheus and how he doesn't allow anyone to see him. Miso suspects that if they invite him to their library launch, he may get the attention they need. She goes to tell Young-jun about this, but feels if she can't get Morpheus, Young-jun will be disappointed, so she stops. He receives a call from Sung Hyun, who tells him he is at the office, so he quickly sends Miso on an errand. Sung Hyun visits him and gives him his love book as a gift, telling him to give love a chance too. Young-jun refuses to talk with him, so Sung Hyun leaves. He bumps into Miso by the door and insists on getting her number, claiming he had been thinking about her since the last night they met. She gives him, and he sees her name too. That day, Choi begs Miso to ensure Young-jun comes home for dinner, and she does her best to get him to go. She also tries to find Morpheus's email, and she sends him an email. During dinner, Choi keeps talking about how awesome Miso is, but Young-jun tries to stop the conversation. After the dinner, Sung Hyun tries to talk about Miso, but Young-jun stops him. He tells Young-jun that he is trying to forgive him for what he did as a child, and if Young-jun hadn't done that to him, he would be the vice chairman of the company. Young-jun tells him he abhors him, and he doesn't want his forgiveness. He claims even if that didn't happen, Sung Hyun can't be in his position. Sung Hyun hits him, but before he could get revenge, his mother comes in crying, and he leaves for Miso's house. She sees him with an injured lips and takes him inside the house to clean his lips. She prepares noodles for him while he looks around her house and sees Morpheus's book. He asks her what she is doing with the book, and she replies that he doesn't know anything about love. He notices the cow he gave her is face down, and he wants to bring it up, but she runs to him and holds him to stop. He drags her closer to his chest, telling her to stay there for a moment. On the other hand, Morpheus gets Miso's mail. He feels his heart flickering and asks her if that was romance. She quickly pushes him away and gives him his ramen. After she sees him off, Pilnam visits, and she tells her what had happened. Pilnam asks her if she doesn't know ramen holds an important position when offered to men, and begs her to be careful because Young-jun can't know the importance of family like they do, and she doesn't want her getting hurt. Young-jun also tells Yusik of the ramen, and Yusik tells him it is important. The following day, Young-jun comes to pick Miso up from home. He goes to work happily with her, and all his staff are shocked that he is smiling. His mother is bothered about his issue with Sung Hyun, and his father also meets Sung Hyun to apologize to Young-jun so their mother can be calm. At work that day, Miso gets a visit from Sung Hyun. She first assumes he is there to insult her for giving him a wrong number, but when she finds out he is Morpheus, she apologizes. They go to eat, and he notices her allergy for flowers almost immediately and asks that flowers be removed from their table. He also tells her he will get back to her about the art launch, and she gives him her correct number. On the other hand, Young-jun meets Yusik, who notices his happy mood and advises him that women prefer straightforward men. He tries to ask around for best way to court Miso and tries to ask Jaya, but can't ask her, so he asks another of his staff, Mr. Young, if there is a trendy restaurant where he can have an ordinary date, but he barely gets a good recommendation. He eventually tells her that he would like to have wine with her after work, and he has booked a restaurant which makes her feel special. She goes to a boutique to get a dress, and as she is about to leave, she receives a call from Morpheus, who asks to see her immediately. She doesn't want to lose her chance, so she asks to meet him in front of the restaurant. He offers to attend the launch and gives her his book with his autograph. As she opens it, Young-jun comes out and pulls her away. He takes her to the restaurant, and she asks what he is doing. She reveals she wanted Morpheus to attend their launch, but he tells her to cancel the plan. She wonders why, but he says he doesn't have to tell her his reason, so she refuses to listen to what he has to tell her that evening and walks away. Sung Hyun asks Young-jun if he is scared that he will take Miso from him, but he replies that Sung Hyun doesn't have that importance. He wishes to send a message apologizing to Miso, but he is too proud to do that, so to get her surprised, he asks the PR team to announce the presence of Morpheus at their launch. When Miso finds out, she gets more angry and she approaches him, telling him that she thought he was serious when he said he wanted to date and marry her and he shouldn't stir her up that way again. Confused, he meets Yusik to know if there is a way he can reconcile with Miso without saying sorry, but Yusik tells him there is no other way. On the other hand, Mr. Young informs Miso that Morpheus and Young Jun are siblings. This makes her remember how much he hated his brother and feel bad. She bumps into him and he apologizes for what he had said, and she also apologized to him. They remain at the office together to work, and he reveals that he wants to stir her up because he is serious about her. He goes closer to her and attempts to kiss her, but before he plants his lips, he gets scared and pushes her away. She gets pissed at him and he goes to apologize to her. She reminds him that she has always known him to be selfish and that he thinks only about himself, and she is sorry she felt special. She walks away and she meets her siblings and explains what happened to them. Pilnam tells her that it may be as a result of trauma that he had gotten while in close contact with women. She thinks about it and she decides to let it go. He also sends her a message in the night apologizing for what had happened. The following day is her day off and she wants to have fun. She plans to go to the amusement park and remembers when she went with him. At work, Sung Hyun visits and the staff finds out who he really is. He brings his document for the launch, but Young Jun claims it is one of the programs he is launching and he doesn't need Sung Hyun to update him. Regardless, Sung Hyun says their parents see it as important. Miso goes to the amusement park, but she is bored because she has no friends. As she walks around, she recalls she had asked Byung Hyun during her date with him to find the boy she played with as a kid. She sends him a message to check up if he had gotten an update. She sees Young Jun, who had come to spend the day with her. She insists she wants to take public transport and he offers to go with her and falls on her at a point. She takes him to a local restaurant and they eat. She tells him how her father had incurred a lot of debts and she had to work to send her siblings to school. He asks if she doesn't resent her parents for it and she says no. As they walk away, he sees a claw machine for a stuffed doll and asks her if she wants it. He tries to get one for her but he fails. He eventually appreciates her for spending the day with him and drives him home. Upon arriving at home, she receives a call from Byung Han, who tells her the incident she was asking about was about the Lee family and it was the younger son who was kidnapped and brought to that area, and she recalls she was also kidnapped around the same time and it was the boy that protected her. She immediately calls Yoo-sik to know if Young Jun was really kidnapped, but Yoo-sik says he doesn't have much idea about it and asks her why she suspects so. She recalls Young Jun's allergy to cables too and concludes he is the one. As a result, she treats him well that day and appreciates him for coming back to her. He also returns to the village to get the stuffed doll for her and brings it to her. He doesn't know she is allergic to it, so she starts tearing up again. She goes to get coffee and buys the exact sweet he had given her when they were kidnapped. She returns to the office and Jaya reveals to her that Morpheus was kidnapped as a child and he once wrote it on the blog. She meets Young Jun to confirm if he was really the one kidnapped or Sung Hyun, and he tells her it was Sung Hyun apologizing for not being her childhood friend. After he leaves, she meets Sung Hyun and asks him. He admits that he was the one and even tells her the story of how Young Jun was boastful as a child and was intelligent, that he was promoted to the same class as him. He took all his friends and even asked him to wait in the place he was kidnapped but didn't return. The story is opposite to what Young Jun had told her about how Sung Hyun and his friends bullied him in grade 4. Regardless, she is glad to reunite with Sung Hyun and she returns to meet Young Jun at his home so she can finish preparing for launch. He asks her to go to his library and she sees the credentials of the people that interviewed for that position with her. She wonders why he had hired her instead of them and he tells her it is because she is Miso. She wonders if he knew her before and he says no and says it was because she was the least competent out of all the options. She returns home and thinks about how much she had wanted to meet Sung Hyun and wonders if it meant more, while Young Jun recalls that the real reason he hired her was because he saw her when she was working as a temporary staff during one of the team dinner and he even introduced himself to her, so he doesn't know why she doesn't remember that. She goes to tell Yoo-sik that she has found the person she was looking for. He asks if she is disappointed and she says no. She returns to work. On the other hand, Sung Hyun tells his parents he has seen the woman he wants to marry and he asks her for lunch. She tells Young Jun that she would like to have her lunch separately and tells him to go for his meeting with Jaya instead. She goes for lunch and Sung Hyun asks her what she wishes to do with him when she finds him, but she tells him nothing. They talk and he asks that they both visit the place they were kidnapped. Maybe they will both regain their childhood memories. They come outside and see Young Jun there. He insists that the company they have meeting with care about security and would prefer she follows him there, so she leaves. He confronts Sung Hyun to leave her, but Sung Hyun tells him to leave their business. In the car, she tells him about her plan to visit the place with Sung Hyun and he asks her not to go, but she goes regardless. As she talks with Sung Hyun, he tells her that growing up, he hated Young Jun because of his involvement in what had happened, but now he is more grateful to Young Jun. Young Jun goes out with Yoo-sik, who advises him to make things official with Miso if he doesn't have her to leave. He calls her for an emergency, and Sung Hyun drives her to meet him. After Sung Hyun leaves, he tells her he only needs her to prepare ramen for him. She takes him to a restaurant to get it and asks him why he keeps interfering her date with Sung Hyun. He insists that she doesn't need to keep digging past memories and she can move on from them, but she says they aren't in the best place for that conversation. As he drives her home, he reminds her that they have been flirting and tells her he really wants to date her. He admits that he asked her out the last time because he doesn't want her to leave, but this time he really loves her. She refuses, telling him he is only asking her out because he is jealous. She goes home and the following day, she goes for their team workshop. Normally, Young-jun doesn't attend the workshop, but he surprisingly comes to join them, and again, he spoils the mood. They suggest they have a treasure hunt by forming a group of 2, and he insists on being Miso's party member. As they search, he asks her out again, asking if she will keep merging Sung Hyun despite that he isn't comfortable with it, and she tells him yes. At about the same time, she receives a call from Sung Hyun, and he picks up, telling Sung Hyun to end the call. She gets pissed at him and reveals to him that all she wants to do is find her memory. She walks away and the rain starts. He covers her with his coat and takes her to a shade. She sees an insect that triggers her phobia, and he helps her take it away and gives her sweets to get calm. She recognizes the sweet as the same one the person she was kidnapped with gave her. As the rain stops, she tells him about how her phobia started because she saw a spider in the room she was locked to, and Sung Hyun protected her. He tells her it was because things were bigger when we were younger and she doesn't have to be scared of it again. He tells her she may get hurt by digging into the past, and that is why he is stopping her from it. She reveals that she had always been living for people since she was born, and the only person who showed her kindness was Sung Hyun. He understands why she is like that, and promises her that he won't stop her from being friends with him again, and he will accept everything because of her. Since he promises to accept everything, she asks why he couldn't kiss her, and he reveals to her that whenever he closes his eyes, he sees a ghost. She assumes it is a joke, and they return to the team. He grills meat for her, and she expresses that she would like to eat grilled meat outside. As the bonding ends, he sends her text before she goes to bed. The following day, she sees him leaving very early in the morning and calls him. He tells her he has a meeting, but she doesn't have to worry about that. He also reveals he has a surprise for her that night. After his meeting, he goes meat shopping with Yoo-sik without bringing him back home, and Miso also dresses to meet him at home. When he sees her, he compliments her beauty. She shows him that the meat he is grilling is burning, and he realizes he can't do it, so they order pizza. He cleans her mouth after a bite and tries to kiss her again, but he keeps seeing ghosts. Suddenly, Yoo-sik enters and she leaves. The following day, Yoo-sik tries to interfere for interrupting, but she tells him it isn't a big deal. She asks if he knows where Young-jun got the injury on his ankle, and he says no, but reveals that it is on Young-jun's 2 ankles, as if he was tired down with cable as a child. She wonders what could have happened, while Young-jun keeps wondering why he can't kiss her. That morning, Sung Hyun tells his mother about Miso and how she had stayed with him in the dark room, and how she said he took her home before he was found. Choi refuses to believe that and claims Sung Hyun was found alone. Regardless, she calls Miso to confirm the entire situation, and Miso reveals that Sung Hyun would always be the strongest man for her because he saved her when she thought no one else could. Choi talks about how Sung Hyun didn't get cold often and how the issue had affected their family. How Sung Hyun had hated Young-jun, and how Young-jun suddenly fainted and lost all his childhood memories. Miso asks to excuse herself, and she needs Sung Hyun, who reminds her that the launch was the following day. Young-jun also comes home and reads Miso's diary that she had given to Sung Hyun, and he recalls that day when he took Miso home and she told him he must marry her. On her way home, Miso keeps wondering if it was Sung Hyun she met or Young-jun, because the person she met gets cold easily and Young-jun gets cold. That night, Sung Hyun appreciates Young-jun for everything, including leaving him as a child to ensure he met Miso, and even linking him to Miso as an adult. He tells Young-jun that they will see who Miso will pick. That night, Young-jun meets with Yoo-sik and he looks disturbed. Yoo-sik asks if he is keeping something and advises him that he can't have a good relationship that way. While Miso sleeps, she dreams about a witch in the room she was locked in, and she wonders what that meant because it wasn't part of her nightmares before. She gets a call from Young-jun, who tells her he is downstairs and gives her a gift before going. On the launch day, Sung Hyun calls Miso to read his speech beforehand, and he holds her hands and ensures Young-jun sees them. As he is about to give the speech, he exchanges it and talks about how he was locked with a lady in a dark room and he met her as an adult and he intends to be around her forever. Miso knows Young-jun may have misinterpreted the situation to believe she knew about that content, so she runs after Young-jun to explain to him that she has no idea. He asks why she is explaining, and she tells him that she loves him. She hugs him and he tries to kiss her, but he can't, so she draws him closer and plants a kiss on his mouth. What do you think will be the end of this great love story? Watch out for the next part.